Good morning. My name is Ed Riskin. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City and County of San Francisco, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today, many months ahead of when we thought we'd be here today to talk about some manifestations. What we're here for really is we're talking about manifestations of some changes in thinking that happened a number of years ago that we're really getting to see now on the streets of San Francisco as we speak, both in ways small and ways large. And so it's really exciting day after years of work to be at this point. And what we're talking about is how we're starting in this city to rethink of the public realm and public space. We're all familiar with city parks and what they represent and how they're used, but there's an extraordinary amount of the public realm that is not park space that's actually in the public rights of way. It's the streets. And unfortunately, most of it is covered with concrete and asphalt, and it was designed for cars and not for people. But this change in kind of philosophy and how we think about the public rights of way is something that was the fruits of the mayor and the board and a lot of other stakeholders and thought leaders around the city that have really started to change how we think about these things and are really starting to transform the city and manifest themselves in great ways such as this. So without further ado, I want to kick this off by bringing up who I think has been the main thought leader in all of this, our mayor, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, congratulations to all the hard work that's been put in for so many years, to all the community leaders, to all the business leaders, merchant groups, and the like that came together and said we could do more and better here on Divisadero. Thank you to all the residents of the neighborhood for their patience and understanding through that big construction project. I literally drove through it every single day and was putting my head down so no one could see me as I drove by because I understand, as you all understood, the disruption was not easy for anybody. But I think clearly it's been well worth it. A $6.3 million investment to revitalize not just the median strip as we see it, but also to begin to revitalize the streetscape going all the way, well, I guess from Waller down to about Geary Street, 14 or so blocks. 80 people that were employed in the last 6 months with the outstanding leadership and stewardship. You got to give them credit of Synergy and Javad and his team that came in under, well, about budget, right, but certainly well within the framework of time, almost 7 months ahead of schedule, which is absolutely extraordinary, and they deserve a big round of applause, a lot of credit for that great work. Some 249 new trees have been planted. We've got all kinds of new bulb outs that were put in. We've done a lot of curb cuts. I think almost 90 curb cuts were included in this effort. We saw the historic lighting improvements. So again, it's not just the trees in the median strip. Obviously, you have a paved, brand new paved street. That's in and of itself something to celebrate, at least from my perspective. They're not all like this, and I know you know that. I want to thank the PUC. They were a participant and a contributor to this effort, part of the sewage improvement project, and we used some of that money as part of the $6.3 million. We had, dare I say, or use the word, earmarks that came in. I know it's a dangerous thing to say and acknowledge, but we had some congressionally directed investment that was made on behalf of our leadership, from Speaker Pelosi and the leadership of former Mayor and now Senator Dianne Feinstein, that helped us get a few $1 million from the federal government. This was part of our priority going back a number of years ago, our streetscape, our great streets strategy and improvement in that investment. Leadership of Supervisor Ross Mercarimi on the general fund side through the contributions of the city's general fund. And notably and significantly, because people ask, well, where'd that federal stimulus money go? Well, you got it. It's right here. The federal stimulus provided the rest of the money to get this project going. $2.3 million of the federal stimulus, the ARA dollars that helped create those jobs, get people to work, and to provide a framework where everyone will be the beneficiary. And I'll just close with that. This is permanent to the extent we keep it up and we maintain it. And that's why I hope, with the great leadership and stewardship of the neighbors, that we can get this community benefit district here in Divisadero, which we know will be critical in terms of the long-term vibrancy of the neighborhood and the district. and to continue to allow more experiments like this, because we're technically standing in the street, not on the sidewalk right now. I was here this morning having tea, since I threw out coffee as a New Year's resolution, tea, green tea, and just encouraging and proselytizing the importance of green tea, a healthy diet, antioxidants, all of that good stuff. Everyone have a sense of humor. Come on, relax. And we are standing what was previously parking spaces. But note, I know someone, I actually did a little interview this morning, and I wasn't quick enough to pick this up, but we didn't take away any parking from the neighborhood because part of our transit improvement program, this TEP that we did, Bonyi and others worked so hard on at Muni, is we actually had a bus stop that was underutilized, and we took that bus stop and put it back into the parking mix, and then took some parking spaces and created this new innovative experiment, what we call a parklet, where we're investing not just in this neighborhood, but in a dozen other neighborhoods in the city. There's 12 similar projects. One we announced 2 weeks ago, Showplace Square. This really started out on Castro, not so far from where we are. And this is all about taking the narrative of frame that Ed talked about, and that 25% of our landmass that are streets, and begin to take a little bit of that back and open it up for the community and create a framework where there's a stronger community connection, stronger sense of place, and a greater business opportunity as well, since Mojo Cafe is a great beneficiary of this as one of the participants in this pilot. It also allows for some bike parking right here and allows us to beautify the neighborhood at the same time, and I think make this a more livable neighborhood in a street that traditionally has not made it easy to be livable. I think this softens up the edges and makes this a destination more than it ever has been. And that's really the idea, to make all our commercial corridors destinations, to make all our diverse neighborhoods must-see destinations for not just residents but visitors to our city. So long-windedly, that's why we're here, to celebrate and to compliment all the great work and leadership. And I want to close by also thanking not just Ed Rieskin and his shop, but the Mayor's Office of Economic and Workforce Development. They really led this effort, our Neighborhood Marketplace Initiative, and thank you, going back 2006 and 2007, for making all of this real. So with that, I will proudly and happily, Astrid Hayardi, thank you, all of you. Pull the mic back and you'll introduce the supervisor, right? Well, why don't I do that? Thank you to the outstanding support, stewardship, leadership, partnership, advocacy of your supervisor, Supervisor Ross Mercarimi. Ross?
I'm very delighted to be here today and to be here with Mayor Newsom and all the city partners, but in particular, all our friends here from the neighborhood organizations who have worked tirelessly to help us arrive at this particular day. I have to remind myself and others that when I first came in office in 2000, when I ran in 2004, came in office in 2005, I declared that Divisadero would be one of our comeback kid corridors. For those who have lived here and those who remember, this area had been distressed both by crime and urban blight, but it had always, over the many, many years, had enjoyed a very populous commercial and residential culture. It had immense potential and prospect. And so with the city family, in particular with the MTA, with the Mayor's Office of Economic and Workforce Development, with the Department of Public Works, with other branches of the city government, and with the many neighborhood groups, in particular NOPNA, Alamo Square Neighborhood Association, Divisadero Merchants Association, and many others who are just now learning the new neighborhood organizations, in 2006 through almost 2008, there had been consistently steadfast meetings to iron out what this vision and plan would look like. I was very proud of that commitment that had been exhibited both by city and neighborhood partnership. And the end result is something that, with the downturn in the economic climate right now, who would think a major public works project in a condensed corridor such as this would be able to be delivered, especially 7 months ahead of schedule? I want to reiterate my thanks to Synergy, Department of Public Works, for really helping be that gentle whip for delivering the goods. This parklet right here, and I must confess, I was here last week already unofficially christening this with Remy, who owns Mojo Cafe. This 44 feet is really the first template that's going to have a citywide impact. It's an exciting 44 feet, something for a local politician, you know, where those small feats actually have just great uplifting sort of enthusiasm. But we realize that other merchants and residents will want the similar kind of benefit, and we will advocate for that. It's a pilot, but it's a pilot that I believe that others will share and that we'll want to see adopted in many other parts of San Francisco. But it isn't just about birthing the new Divisadero corridor. Over the last several years, we probably have one of the most attractive farmers markets that are right around the corner here, thanks to the neighborhood advocacy that helped deliver this farmers market. It's on Sundays. I recommend you shop there. If you missed that one, then go to Saturday on Fillmore O'Farrell, or the one in Inner Sunset on Sunday. You are out that way. And then with the merchants who are now contributing to the vibrancy of this area, Divisadero has now returned to become a cultural destination site. We will see on a quarterly basis, based on the good work of Summer Peterson and Ellen Parker and so many others, where we now have literally almost to the stretch of the Divisadero corridor an art walk, where literally almost every merchant transforms on a quarterly basis their business into an art gallery. It's almost like a block party. But with that vibrancy and with that populism that has now reached a point, so goes the concerns of pedestrian and bicycle safety, which is why the streets on Divisadero and the corridor have been redesigned in such a way so that we are modernizing our understanding that both people, cars and driver, and those who bike and those who take transit share the road in an equitable fashion. I'm tired of hearing people that necessarily whose safety has been threatened. We have fought very hard, I might say, or advocate, for stop signs and stoplights in ways so that this area can certainly become, I think, in a more neighborhood-driven commercial area as well. I'm very proud of the way everybody's come together. I know that this is going to continue to enhance the economy, the local economy of our neighborhood merchants. And I just want to say how grateful I am for everybody who has now made this happen. Thank you again.
Thank you, Supervisor McArimi. As someone who lives not far from here, I have a daughter who goes to school 2 blocks from here. I walk, ride my bike, and take the 24 down to Divisadero almost daily. I certainly can appreciate and want to underscore the leadership that Supervisor McArimi and the mayor have brought to make this change. And I think Supervisor McArimi is also the chair of the Transportation Authority. And I think both he and the mayor were being a little bit modest in talking about these improvements, because we're talking not only about here, we're talking about parklets like this in the Mission and North Beach and the Inner Richmond. We've got pavement to parks in the Castro and Showplace Square and down at San Jose Guerrero. We've got streetscape improvements that are underway. Lower Polk, Van Ness,
Valencia,
San Bruno, and the big one, Valencia, not too far away from here, and the other big one, Leland, and coming up, Cesar Chavez. So we've got, this is just one of many that through the foresight and wisdom of the mayor in starting the Great Streets program, the board in passing the Better Streets policy. We've got the Better Streets plan, which should be adopted this year. Hopefully we'll make more ground on the bike plan injunction being lifted this year. So this is part of a trend. This is not a one-off episode. So we really do see it as emblematic of a lot more to come. I do want to take a moment. Supervisor McArimi mentioned that there were a lot of people involved. This was not just DPW, but a lot of different folks from community organizations, other city departments. We have Bondi representing Nat Ford from the MTA here, Andres Power and David Allenbaugh representing John Rand from planning, critical city partners in this endeavor. I think Ross named all of the community groups, but other governmental partners. Certainly the County Transportation Authority, Jose Luis Moscovich, Ross is the chair of that, the MTC, our federal partners. I think we have the U.S. General Accountability Office here, including Director Linda Calbon, Heather McLeod, and Emily Eiskin. I hope I got that right. Sounds kind of like my name. Want to thank our many partners that have worked together to make this happen. And I particularly do need to single out a few individuals. The woman who has been leading this effort for years, working with the community, our project manager, the project manager for all these streetscape improvements around the city, DPW project manager Chris Oprecht. Let's give a big hand for Chris. Her partner in crime, Ramon Kong, who manages the paving program for the city, got those $2.4 million of stimulus funds attached to this project, so we got a paved street. And the tireless day in and day out work of Michelle Wu, who was the resident engineer who worked with Synergy to make sure this got done not only on time but ahead of time. The mayor mentioned it. I want to say it again. We were expecting this to be a 13-month project, and they got it done in about half the time. So that's a tremendous effort. I want to thank Michelle Wu, Bernie T., Don Eng from the Bureau of Construction Management. The folks within DPW, the landscape architects who designed this, Martha Ketterer and Nick Ansel. Our Deputy Director, Fuad Suisse. There's a lot of folks who have been working hard to make this happen, working with Andres from Planning, working with Ellen Parker from the Office of Economic Development. I want to thank them all. And I noted as I was going through this list, it was really three strong, powerful women that were driving this project. Between Chris Oprecht, Michelle Wu, and Ellen Parker, they're the ones who did the lion's share of the work to make this happen on the city side. So hats off to that interdepartmental team of collaboration. And finally, again, I want to acknowledge Javad Mersadi, his superintendent Donovan standing behind us for their work, their really thoughtful work to strategize, to work with the neighborhood, to frequent the neighborhood establishments, to hire San Francisco residents to get this work done and create a lot of benefits in the process. So thanks to Synergy Project Management. And now we also had some people who just kicked in effort, not because the city was paying them to do so or because they were city staff, but because they thought that this was the right thing to do and wanted to be a part of this movement. I want to ask a pro bono architect, Riyad Ghanam, to come up and say a few words.
Hello, thank you. It's a real honor to be here, and it was an honor to be invited to participate in this project. And I want to congratulate the city on taking a chance on something like this. I think that it's a project that, because it's an experiment, you know, there's some things that are unknown, but I think what we've done is we've turned 2 anonymous parking spaces, a place where you could never say, oh, meet me at these parking spaces. You know, they just don't exist in our realm. But now it's a place, and I think that we've accomplished something there for a very, very small budget. And again, it was an honor for me, but I also want to say that it was totally impossible without the efforts of so many great volunteers and so many organizations, private and nonprofit. The Bike Coalition, Great Streets, they were tremendously helpful in all of this and were part of the whole stimulus to get this thing going. And stimulus seems to be kind of the catchphrase right now for this year, and I think that this is a great example of stimulus. It stimulated my interest in participating in pro bono work as an architect. It stimulated the community. It brought people together, and the efforts of all the volunteers, I just can't say enough about it, how amazing it was. Just real briefly, last Friday, it was not the most pleasant weather, pouring rain pretty much all day. Andres was reminding me that we had maybe an hour before it started raining when I got here in the morning. Nonetheless, we had a slew of volunteers that came out tirelessly to work on this. And I just hope that everybody can now enjoy it, and I hope that this helps serve the community here and the design community in the future to do more projects like this. So thank you.
Thank you. Just to emphasize, this would not have happened without pro bono services and a lot of volunteer sweat and hopefully not tears, but in labor. But so thank you all again, everyone who had a part in this. You've left the city and this neighborhood a great legacy. And speaking of this neighborhood, to close out the program, I want to bring up Leela Gill, who's with NOPNA, North of Panhandle Neighborhood Association.
Hello, my name is Leela Gill, and I was the president of North Panhandle Neighborhood Association when this project got started back in 2006. And and also I've lived in this neighborhood for more than 20 years. And when my husband and I moved into the area, I remember him telling me, my husband being a San Franciscan native, telling me that Divisadero was perfect corridor to just be an up-and-coming, vibrant corridor. He was basically convincing me this was the neighborhood to live in, and 20 years later, he's absolutely right. So I represent a lot of the residents who are very proud of our neighborhood. We've put a lot of work into it over the years, especially with the farmers market and the art walk, with Summer Peterson leading that. And you know, our neighborhood's characterized as being very eclectic and very community focused. This project really brought us together even closer as a community, bringing Alamo Square together with North Panhandle and, of course, the Merchants Association, and getting the Merchants Association started. I remember participating in picking the trees and the types of lampposts, and so I want to thank, on behalf of all of the neighbors in the community, I want to thank the Department of Economic Workforce and Development, Public Works, and Mayor and Supervisor Ross Mercarimi, and, of course, Gavin Newsom, our mayor, and thank all of you for investing in our community. It's really brought us together even more. And like I said, 20 years ago, you wouldn't catch me walking down Divisadero. Now I will bring both my children anytime, any day down Divisadero. So we're really proud to be here. And I want to encourage you to go have lunch at one of our local merchant businesses. We've got a large number of them here, and great food. And thank you all for being so supportive of our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you all very much. As I said, there are a lot of different people that work together to make this happen, so if there's someone here that I didn't adequately recognize, I'm sorry, but know that the city and this neighborhood are certainly grateful for your efforts. That's the end of our program. Okay, Lisa Zahner. We want to give a shout out to Lisa Zahner. And Owen, who's going to grow up right here. So thank you all for coming out. We'd be happy to answer questions if you have any. If not, thanks again. We encourage everyone to patronize the merchants here while you're out here today. Thank you very much for coming.